Hello, friends and foes. I don't know why I just said that. Hi friends, welcome back. I'm MC and today we are in the yarn closet because we are here for the much awaited January and February stash update. Now, normally I sit on the floor for this part, but I have too many things to show you today and I would have to keep getting up and down and I can't do that right now. So I have stuff balanced everywhere and we're gonna get into this because we have a lot to talk about. Now, I have my computer over here next to me and we need to go back to the beginning of the year. Sorry, also I'm standing on a squeaky spot on the floor and there's some construction going on across the street, so we're gonna do whatever we can to get rid of the noises when I'm editing, but sorry. At the beginning of the year, I showed you in my intro stash video this very intense stash tracker database that I created, and I will link that video for you down below if you would like to go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But I have been tracking everything, and then I got some suggestions to also track grams, I think. So I was pretty much just tracking skeins, and I don't know if you could hear that. Miko's trying to get into my office. Mug, Miko! I can let you in, but you're not gonna wanna stay here. Okay. I had been tracking just skeins, like as a unit, and yards. And someone suggested that I also track grams. And I can't believe it's kind of embarrassing to admit this, but I hadn't thought of that. So I have added that into my stash tracking. So let's recap with where we were at the beginning of 2025. I just almost said 2023. Wow, I'm moving back in time. I started with 78 skeins, totaling 10,341 grams and 26,413 yards. So if you would like to see the breakdown of, how many fingering weight skeins, how many DK weight skeins, all that kind of stuff, that is in my intro video. But that is where I was starting with yarn for this year. And we will do yarn first and then we will go into fiber because yes, I'm also tracking that. So let's start with our ins and outs for yarn. So in January, I started the year nice and slow. In January, I had two things that came in, and that is one, oh, I told you I had things balanced precariously all around me. This is a skein of CBM that I spun. So that came into my stash because I decided I wanted to keep it. And then I also had this skein of, it's called Space Oddity, and it is by a Kingdom Works yarn. They are no longer dyeing. They were a local Connecticut dyer, and this came back into my stash because it was a frogged project, a frogged pair of socks. So that is now back into the stash. So for January, all that came in was two skeins, which equals, I just pick up my computer again, I can't read it from that far away. 942 yards came in and 217 grams. Now, February. I kind of knew this was gonna happen, so I was a little bit mentally prepared for it, but it's still a little like, ugh, a lot happened in February. So first things first, what happened is I brought in 3 skeins of this yarn that I dyed. As you can see, it's already been turned into something. So I brought in 3 skeins of this DK weight yarn from me that I dyed. This does not have a colorway name yet, so we'll get back to that in just a moment. Then I brought in 6 skeins of, oh no, everything's stuck. Oh gosh, I forgot. I forgot I connected these. I have them connected together. I brought in 6 skeins of Don't Cry Shop Girl on my Bodacious Boucle base because I have some big plans for this. So I had to dye some up for myself. And hang on. I was kind of hoping that I would be casting something on this month, but I think we're gonna have to push pause on that for just a couple more weeks. But that's okay, because it's really not a project that I'm concerned about until fall anyway. I'm just really excited to work on it. So that is 6 skeins that got brought in for that. Then I stole 2 skeins of Goodnight Dear Void from my stock for reasons you will see in a moment. And oh no, my phone is ringing. I need to answer it from the doctor. Sorry, bye. Okay, we're back. That was wild. I needed to reschedule a doctor's appointment and they're booking 10 months out. Good thing this is just like a regular checkup to make sure everything's cool kind of appointment and I don't have an actual concern. Cause I had to reschedule I was able to get an appointment in October. That feels silly, but wow. Let's jump back into stash. Sorry about that little tangent. Okay, so I left off with my 2 skeins of Goodnight Dear Void. Then I went on a trip to the Little Wolf Knits retreat in Pennsylvania and I grabbed 1 skein of prongs on DK, 2.5 skeins of flats or drums on Schooner Breeze Boucle base. I just caught that. Isn't that awesome? And I have 2.5 skeins because Brie was kind enough to give me her leftovers from her second out sweatshirt so that I could make one that looks just like it. And then I got 1 skein of Heart Healthy on Boucle as well, which as you can see has already been turned into something. So let's put these away really quick. 1 second. So that means that for February, I brought in 15.5 skeins, which total 4,166 yards and 1,550 grams. So that's where we're at for January and February. Now let's talk about what went out. In January, I'm sorry I keep moving so much. There's just too much everywhere. In January, the first thing that went out is 2 skeins of, I had 2 skeins of my Zoinks colorway on fingering weight yarn and a friend ended up wanting those. So I destashed those and those are gone. So that was 2 skeins out. Then I used up 3 skeins of my FOX tester skeins on fingering weight and 4 skeins of a yellow lace weight Surrey from Brie of the Little Wolf Knits, and I made the Pillars Pullover by Claire Jackson of Perfectly Knotted. I love this so much, and it got 7 skeins out of my stash, but I wasn't doing it just to get the skeins out. I genuinely love this. And then the last thing that happened in January is I made a pair of socks out of the Hawaiian shirt colorway from Woolens and Nosh. So that was 1 more skein out. So that means in January, we got rid of, I have to put this down. We got rid of 10 skeins, totaling 3,740 yards and 800 grams exactly. Now February, we have to dig out some things. One moment. February started by me casting on the E Street sweater by Brie of the Little Wolf Knits. This colorway always gets really blown out on camera. This is my FOX colorway. It does not look as orange as it is showing up, but this, I took 3 skeins out of my stash for this E Street sweater. We're not very far, but it's still in progress. And I count things as out of stash as soon as I cast on. So that is the deal with that one. And then, as I showed before, I took 3 skeins of this unnamed green colorway out of my stash for my new sample of the crew neck tee. So that is done, and a tester call will be coming really soon. Next, I cast on a new tank. Oh no, losing stitches. This is why I stole Goodnight Dear Void for myself. And this, we just decided on a name this morning. This is the Bay Day tank. And it doesn't look like much yet, but it is coming soon. So this was my 2 skeins of Goodnight Dear Void out of my stash. And then, yes, I was quite busy in February. Busy buying yarn and busy using yarn. The next thing that I did was a very spontaneous cast on and finish up. And this is Heart Healthy. This is a boucle tank design of mine, and I don't have any plans for it yet. So we will figure that out soon, but 1 skein out of stash. And then I took 1 more little skein out of my stash, and this is my Tall Decaf Cappuccino colorway on my whatever worsted base, and I am making a sample of my percolated socks DK. Even though this is worsted, it still works. And that's that. That is all that has happened in the month of February. Now let's see where we're at. In February, I used 10 skeins of yarn, took 10 out of my stash, which totaled 3,382 yards and an even 1,000 grams. So where am I now with my yarn stats? I have, over the course of the year so far, I have brought in 16.5 skeins, totaling 1,667 grams and 4,834 yards. I have removed from my stash 20 skeins, totaling 1,800 grams and 7,122 yards. Just realized on my thing, I need to switch my grams and yards, the order that they are in. And so therefore, I have currently 74.5 skeins, totaling 10,208 grams and 24,125 yards. And I will say, a couple people asked if I would be selling this template, and yes, absolutely. I do plan on sharing this with people, but it is very intense, and as you can see, I'm still kind of finding some little things that I want to tweak. So I'm testing it myself for a couple of months before I put it out there into the world, because I want to make sure that everything is right and it's working correctly, and all the math that it is doing is working right and everything. So yes, I do plan to put this out there into the world, but I just want to make sure everything's right for you before I get it into your hands. So now let's talk briefly about some fiber. If you are only interested in yarn and you don't care about fiber, it was very nice to hang out with you. I will see you next time. Goodbye. But if you're still here for the fiber, I started this year with 45.3 ounces in stash, and this is a lot easier for me to track. I'm just doing it by ounces. That's it. So no yards, grams, whatever. If you watched my original video, I had the wrong weight, the wrong amount down for one of my braids. So I think I said 46.3 ounces in there. It was actually 45.3 ounces. So not a big deal, but just wanted to put that correction out there. In January, the only thing that came in is this braid of, I believe it's called, Stained Glass from Frabjous Fibers. This is some BFL. 4 ounces came in. That's it. Now, February. Okay, so we're gonna start February with a project that I can't actually show you, or some fiber that I can't show you because it's downstairs in the middle of a project right now. I had some leftovers from I had dyed some fiber and then, you know, I measure it out to send to people, and I had a little bit of leftover that wasn't enough for what I normally sell. So I had 2.6 ounces of Falkland and 1.8 ounces of Targhee in my Don't Cry Shop Girl colorway. And I just snagged them because they were pretty and I had a plan in mind for them. So I snagged them and they came into my stash. And then I need to walk away for a second to show you what happened next. Yeah. Oops. So here's what happened. Firstly, my fiber supplier had this really fun merino cross and I really wanted to try it. And the smallest that you can order is a pound. So I just ordered a pound for myself to try. And, you know, I mean, I could potentially sell this in the future if people are interested in it. If you want to know more, I'm happy to share that with you, but I really just got it for myself to play. I had to place an order for fiber to dye, and I just wanted it. So that is 16 ounces that got added to my stash. And then I placed an order from Wee Chickadee Wool Co. on Etsy, and I got 3 braids over here. This is 3 braids of Windswept on Cormo, which I just couldn't resist. And then these 2 are Jacob braids, and this was a one-of-a-kind that was called On the Road. So that is 16, each of these braids are 4 ounces each, so that is, nope, not 16. I was reading the wrong line. That is 12 ounces of Windswept and 8 ounces of On the Road. So, in February, I brought in 40.4 ounces of fiber, which, yes, is very close to the amount of fiber I initially had in my stash at the beginning of the year. So I almost doubled my fiber. Oops. In January, a lot went out. And, well, okay, not maybe a lot total-wise, but a lot happened. And I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on these because I have talked about them in several other videos before. These things were kind of just like hanging around forever. So I used up 4 ounces of a Shiniko wool tweed called Earth Tones from Cece's Wool, and I applied that with 4 ounces of a Jacob roving from Cece's Wool as well. So that took 8 ounces out of my stash. I still had some of the Earth Tones Shiniko left over, so I spun up a 1 ounce sample of some Shetland that I had and applied that with what was left of my Shiniko, but there was still Shiniko left. So then I ended up applying, I spun up a 100% Corriedale 1 ounce sample of some Corriedale that I had just messed around with dyeing a long time ago. And I had 1.8 ounces of some brown Romney that I had as well. So I spun those up, applied them together, applied all the leftovers together. All the leftovers of everything have gone away. And none of those skeins are staying with me. I'm not keeping any of them. So that was 11.8 ounces out of my stash in January. Let's see what happened in February going out. I firstly used up a 3.2 ounce bat that I had that was made at Madison Wool. It's really, really fun. I need to wind it up better because it looks messy right now, but it's really fun Corriedale bat. And then I took those the Falkland and Targhee little bits that I had that I mentioned before that I brought in of Don't Cry Shop Girl. And so I had 2.6 ounces of Falkland, 1.8 ounces of Targhee. I took them out and I'm going to apply them with this. I haven't started this bobbin yet, but I technically count it as out of my stash because it is going into this project. This is 100% Targhee from the Little Wolf Knits. This is the color Witch's Brew. And I'm going to apply this with my Don't Cry Shop Girl. Nope, yeah, Don't Cry Shop Girl colorway. So that is 4 more ounces out of stash. So in February, I took 11.6 ounces of fiber out of my stash. So where am I at for the year? With fiber, I have brought in 44.4 ounces of fiber. Yes, that is less than 1 ounce less than what I already had at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I pretty much exactly doubled my fiber. But I have removed 23.4 ounces from my stash so far, just in the first 2 months of the year, which feels really cool. So that means I currently have 66.3 ounces in my stash. And you know what? Honestly, I'm okay with that. Okay, so here's where we're at. I know I said a lot of numbers at you, but at its bare bones, we are at 74.5 skeins of yarn and 66.3 ounces of fiber. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. I was hoping that I would be able to get some more skeins out of my stash in these past 2 months. But I also don't mind that I brought so much in, because this is the point. The point of me doing this stash tracking is so that, like, what I'm bringing in, what I have, what I'm keeping around me is what brings me the most joy. And so I don't feel like I had any like really impulsive purchases and I brought anything in that I didn't really think through. I'm super excited about the yarn that I brought in. I'm super excited about the fiber that I brought in. I don't mind that I have so much fiber now. I really, I didn't feel like I had a ton of fiber in my stash beforehand. It all fit right here in this little bin. It's not going to now, but you know what? I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind. And yeah, okay, so I got a pound of fiber, and if I don't like it, I can get rid of half of it. I can get rid of things. I can give them to friends. I can stash down if I decide I want to change my mind about any of it. But it really doesn't bother me where I'm at right now because I'm so excited about literally everything that is in my stash. Literally everything. Like, to the point where I look at it and I'm like, oh, I want to use that right now, but oh, I want to use that right now, but oh, I really want to use that right now. And I am like actually overwhelmed by how excited I am about all of the things. So I think that's a good problem to have, and I think I'm okay with it. March and April are going to be a little bit interesting because I'm traveling for most of the time between when I'm recording right now and when I will be filming my next stash update. So I'm clearly not going to be, you know, bringing 20 skeins with me to destash or like, you know, work into projects and get out of my stash. So I think we'll have a lot less coming out in March and April, but I also think we'll have a lot less coming in because I don't really foresee myself buying much. But you never know. Plus, I think I'm going to end up dyeing some things for myself to be using. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, if you enjoy following along on my stash journey, make sure that you are subscribed down below and give this video a like, comment, and let me know what your own goals are and if you're on a stash journey of your own. And until next time, take care of you and I will see you later. Bye.